As we continue to have an in-depth knowing of our vice presidential candidate, Attorney Carlos Serapio, running under the Katipunan ng Kamalayang Kayumangi Katipunan Party, let me share with you part of the excerpt of his interview with Ms. Rhea Vito Tabora entitled Manila Rotarian in Focus. May the information he shared in this interview will give us a deeper understanding of his persona. His is a journey only a few would dare take. While he might have the talent, resources, and political influence to go far in life, he labored hard not to enrich himself with earthly possessions, but rather found enough satisfaction from the gratitude of the people whose welfare he has pursued and fought for. He ardently advocated people's rights, equality, and justice, even at the expense of his own liberty. Colorful and interesting it may be, his life journey is rooted on principles of fairness and Christian values, but marked with challenges and trials. From fighting for the rights of laborers and ensuring that those who have less in life will have more in law, to legal engineering, to political consultancy, Star Rotarian Carlos G. Serapio is walking a lawyer's path filled with purpose. In this interview, Star Rotarian Kuya Charlie shares snippets of his life as a martial law prisoner and how he drew inspiration from it in writing a book which he personally gave to His Holiness, the Pope. He also talks about how his father and grandfather influenced him to become a lawyer and why he is so passionate about bringing to fruition his kingdom on his anointed land, Lupang Hinirang, and his elect and refined Filipino people. Attorney Carlos G. Serapio shared that he was arrested and detained twice during martial law. In 1978, after he chaired and operated the Laban Poll Watching Operations Center, he was nabbed together with several hundreds others in a protest march that ensued. While waiting to be booked in Fort Bonifacio, he escaped with the assistance of his now deceased friend, political mentor, and soulmate Emmanuel Manny E. Cruz, who pretended to be a military officer. In 1980, he was again arrested in a big dragnet operations in Green Hills, San Juan. He was with Manny as well as with some labor union leaders for a pre-departure briefing. He was supposed to go back to the United States for a meeting with the late Senator Raul S. Manglapus and other exiled leaders when this happened. They were initially brought to Camp Karingal, where he found out that hundreds of farmers, workers, and urban poor settlers identified with their Christian movement were also rounded up. He was paraded in front of them with an officer wrapping his arm around his shoulder, an act that was clearly intended to intrigue and imply that he was the rat or stool pigeon who caused their arrest. He was later transferred to Camp Bagong Diwa, where most of those who were arrested with him were brought, and for the first time, there were more Christians than communists in the detention center. He represented the Christian groups, while the troika of Fidel Agkawili and Pepe Luneta and Sator Ocampo spoke for the communists and their leftist supporters in political talks or negotiations. Subsequently, he was privileged to be among those who had a private audience with His Holiness, the Pope. He took the opportunity to give him the manuscript of a book that he was inspired to write in prison. Years later, The latest book version was handed to Pope Francis through Bishop Du when he met the pontiff in Tacloban. In 2004, he was arrested together with Secretary Salvador Enriquez, former DBM and Finance Secretary of President Fidel Ramos, Ambassador and later Congressman Roy Sinieres, and General Fortunato Abad, all of whom are now deceased. The case for inciting to sedition is still pending, with him as the only remaining accused. In the interview, he was asked why did he go into law practice. Attorney Carlos G. Serapio said that he was only 5 years old when he remembered telling his childhood playmates that he intended to be a lawyer. This may have been influenced by the fact that his grandfather and father were lawyers who eventually became judges. In the case of his grandfather, he followed as a politician after his father, who was the first Governor General of Bulacan, by also becoming a mayor of Polo, now Valenzuela, and an assemblyman. He also sired Nasing Santiago, who was governor of Bulacan for 18 years and was likewise at one time a mayor of Polo and a provincial board member. He was the half-brother of his father. A meeting between Don Claro M. Recto and his grandfather that he witnessed may have been a subliminal factor also in his aspiration to be a lawyer involved in politics. Asked what inspired him to join the Rotary Club of Manila, Attorney Carlos G. Serapio said that he never really imagined himself joining the Rotary at this late stage of his life, if not for the insistence and beautiful historic tradition pitch of his proposer, Anton Mauricio, who think that even went out of his way to request the then outgoing President Bobby Joseph to be his co-proposer, a humbling honor that he cannot refuse. He would not have obliged. After all, considering his history and the journey that he is still willing to undertake, he did not want to be misunderstood, and he felt like it was not the kind of lake where he can comfortably swim and be in his elements. He is more than happy, though, that he joined. In the past months that he had been attended the regular weekly meetings, he have learned a lot about the club. What gratifies him most is seeing and being with men whose love for God and country, whose virtues and values put the highest premium on the Rotary commitment of service above self and serve to change lives.